Somalia and Sweden are two of the world's most polar opposite states. One of them very successful and one of them completely failed. Here we will highlight the political and economic attributes of each state. This presentation is brought to you by Dylan Hines and Josh Auerbach.
Okay, beginning with Somalia. Somalia's lack of political stability makes it hard to tell the rating of Somalia's economic freedom. Essentially, this means it's hard to get a read on Somalia's economy, but surprisingly enough, the economy is in complete shambles due to good income from the livestock and agriculture. 3/5 of the economy is agriculture, which consists of the livestock raising mostly. Somalia has resources that are the pastures which cover most of the country, and this is a good and essential place to raise the livestock. Somalia is also a hub of very big telecommunications offices. It holds the largest telecom centers in Africa and has remarkably survived through the violent conflicts taking place in the nation. Somalia has also shown improvement by branching out into manufacturing ways of getting economic means. 10% of the GDP is made up of manufacturing, and there are 53 manufacturing firms, fish canning and meatpacking industries in the north, and about 25 various factories in the Mogadishu area, which is the capital. Investments in light manufacturing indicate growing business confidence in the country. Overall, there are significant signs of improvement in various ways. Airlines have expanded, and they continue to keep the expansion growing with the Puntland Tax Administration plan, and this plan has been proven to double the domestic revenue starting in 2011. This is their plan for improvement made by their federal government, and has already shown improvement and should be going and helping towards the future. The pictures shown show three different types of income economically. First in the top left is the livestock, which comprises 60% of the economic income. On the top right is more of an illegal income, but still an income to people that are more rebellious to the government, and that is Somali pirates taking over ships and doing hostage ransoms that will bring money to their clan individually. And in the bottom is comprised of mostly the occupation of average, everyday Somalian citizens, which are fishermen. A dramatization of how Somali pirates operate and their methods in hijacking ships will be shown on the link. Next, for the government took a turn for the worst in 1991 after President Siad Barre was overthrown by rival clans. This consisted of clan warfare and lots of civil conflicts after 1991 led to the lowest GDP per capita in the world, and 14 attempts to establish a sound government had failed. In 2012, Somalia has a full federal government in Mogadishu committed to inclusiveness, reconciliation, and peace based on a provisional constitution. Many observers hail the transition as a genuine break with the past and the best opportunity for stability the fragmented country has had in the past 2 decades. There's a 275-seat parliament made up of 4 major clans, and national elections are postponed from 2012 to 2016 due to continued insecurity and lack of actual government control in the country either way. In the pictures shown, even though Somalia has proven that they can establish a federal government and parliament, there's still conflicts between the rival clans that want control over it, and they all pretty much disagree on their beliefs and stray away from the central government's message either way, and this will lead to violence and civil conflict and civil war that is just demeaning and taking away from the possibilities that could come, and there's still famine due to lack of government control, and there is violence, and this is not going to help Somalia improve. Somalia today is currently ranked the number 2 lowest country on the Failed States Index. Actions that should be taken to improve their ranking and strengthen their country overall would be to reduce civil conflicts and violence in the country, because it does not help the economy whatsoever if they're taking away money for warfare reparations and all the other casualties. And also, they should keep a central government and do not let individual diverse clans deviate from their overall central government's interests. Also, a way that they can keep trade involved is partner with other countries and do business with other countries. Somalia is a coastal country, not landlocked, which will bring around import and exporting opportunities, and they should take full advantage of this and increase trade overseas. Also, lastly, They should work together and cooperate with humanitarian efforts to strengthen the country in certain areas that are beyond the country's central government's control. For examples would be the United Nations.
Sweden has one of the most healthy economies in the world. It has among the European Union's lowest levels of national debt, low and stable inflation, and a healthy banking system. Sweden has achieved its remarkable economy under a capitalist system with the aid of extensive welfare benefits and a long period of peace and neutrality. Sweden's economy is heavily based around foreign trade, its main resources being timber, hydropower, and iron ore. Sweden prioritizes its economic goals around equality and efficiency. As illustrated in the chart on the top of the page, Sweden's Gini coefficient for disposable income is 0.24, a lot lower than the rich world average of 0.31. The Gini coefficient is a measures the spread of wealth over a nation's residents and is the most common measure of inequality. Part of the reason Sweden is able to keep inequality so low is because wage disparities are much narrower than in most other countries. This is because of centralized bargaining between unions and employers that sets minimum wages in different sectors. The link presented in this slide will direct you to an article that touches on the balance of inequality and efficiency in Sweden. It notes how although Sweden is still very equal, it recently has become slightly more unequal. This is due to a drastic increase in efficiency that has come at the cost of equality. Sweden's political system has three levels of domestic government: national, regional, and local. At a national level, Sweden's government is a parliamentary democracy, which means all power proceeds from the people. As illustrated on the slide, Sweden's primary representative form is a 349-member council made up of 8 parties called the Riksdag. Up in the top left corner, you can see the names and ideology of all of the parties. The Riksdag makes decisions while the government implements them. The Riksdag appoints a prime minister who is accountable for forming the government. The Prime Minister personally chooses the ministers to make up the cabinet and also decides which ministers will be in charge of the various ministries. Together, the Prime Minister and the cabinet ministries make up the government. Sweden also has a monarch, but under the Constitution, the government is empowered to make governmental decisions and not the monarch. The government and Riksdag are both ruled by the Swedish Constitution. The Swedish Constitution regulates the relationships between decision-making and executive power and the basic rights and freedoms of citizens. 4 fundamental laws make up the Constitution: the Instrument of Government, the Act of Succession, the Freedom of the Press Act, and the Fundamental Law on Freedom of Expression. The Act of Succession regulates the right of members of the House of Bernadotte to accede to the Swedish throne. The Instrument of Government guarantees citizens the right to obtain information freely, hold demonstrations, form political parties, and practice their religion. The Freedom of Press Act allows people to study official documents whenever they wish. Another principle in the Freedom of Press Act is the freedom to communicate information. The law on freedom of expression is very similar to the Freedom of Press Act. It regards the prohibition of censorship, the freedom to communicate information, and the right to be anonymous. At a regional level, Sweden is divided into 20 counties. Political tasks in these counties are undertaken by the county councils. These counties are then divided into 290 municipalities, each with an elected assembly or council. Municipalities are responsible for a broad range of services, including housing, roads, water supply, schools, public welfare, elderly, and childcare. The chart at the top of the page shows that Sweden is number 177 on the Failed State Index, which is the second least failed state in the entire world. This is because of a couple of reasons. One, Sweden's remarkable Gini coefficient of 0.24, which means that their country is extremely equal. Another is Sweden's extremely efficient economy based heavily on foreign trade. In addition to this, Sweden's highly skilled labor force, which is due to the fact that Sweden spends much more money than most other countries do on everything from early childhood education to job search and training. Another reason is the fact that Sweden's constitution regulates the government's power and gives its people the basic right of freedom. And in addition to this, Sweden has a well organized government which is effective and is split into national, regional, and local levels.